Joel Richardson, New York Times bestselling author, film producer, missionary, Middle East expert, a dear friend of mine. And Joel, thank you so much for being on the show this entire segment today. God bless you for that.
Carl, thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it immensely, and we've got to do something like this again sometime soon. Well, listen, with the time that we have, let's redeem the time. There's no doubt to many people that Russia obviously plays into end-time prophecy in so many ways. Some people see some biblical foreshadowing of Russia, perhaps, in the Scriptures. And of course, Russia's connection to Iran right now is pretty famous, or infamous, if you will. And so we understand that Russia certainly is involved in all of this, but you make a tremendously strong biblical and historical case that some of the scriptures that might be referenced as Russia specifically could very well pertain to Turkey and its prominence in end-time prophecy, and particularly its connection to Iran. So I'm going to hush and let you unwrap that package, because this is a very important concept for the world to understand.
Sure. Well, without diminishing the importance of Russia in geopolitics, I want to say that with regard to prophecy, what a lot of prophecy teachers have done is they've pointed to the prophecy of Ezekiel 38 and 39, often referred to as the Battle of Gog of Magog.
Right.
And in Ezekiel's prophecy, he lists several nations. He has Gog, Gog of Magog, Meshech, Gomer, Togarmah, Persia, Put, and Cush.
Mm-hmm.
And so he lists all of these nations. Now, what people have done is they've got to the word where it says Magog, and they say, well, the people that were the Magogians, the Magogites, however you would say that, they migrated. They became the Scythians, who became the Russians. So essentially, they're doing this method of interpreting Ezekiel's names by tracking the people down through history. Well, that's one method of interpretation. The problem is that when you look at most of the guys that do that, they do it selectively with one or two of the names. But then with all the other names, they simply say, they don't try to track them down through history. And the reason they don't is because they became Europeans, they became, all of the Caucasians, the United States, they became Ireland. That. What's that?
I said, gee, imagine that. Go ahead.
Right. So it's almost like a card trick, where they're using one method of interpretation to point to Russia, and then they switch methods. I think the method that most responsible scholars would say is the historical correlation. So in Ezekiel's day, Ezekiel and his immediate audience understood those names to be referring to peoples that dwelled largely in the region of Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey.
Right.
And you have to be consistent. If you use one method of interpretation, you have to stick with it. And so when you simply open up any Bible atlas, you'll see that Magog, Meshech, Tubal, Togarmah, that Gomer, they were in the region of Asia Minor, Turkey. And so I think there's strong biblical evidence that Turkey will play a key leadership role in the coming Antichrist coalition of nations that will come against Israel. I think there's really, it makes sense biblically, and it makes sense on the ground in terms of what's unfolding in the earth right now.
Yeah. Well, I think you're absolutely right. You make a strong biblical historical argument, and then you see what's happening in the world. And we've watched Turkey go from this what American politicians called our democratic friend in the Middle East for so long, turning into this radical Muslim nation, or at least heading that way, making some alliances with Iran now. And then, of course, I always like to point out to folks that, listen, what Joel says about Turkey playing into huge significance in the last days ties right into the scriptures in Revelation to the church at Pergamum that says, look, this is where Satan has his throne. The Lord says, I know this. I know that that's where you live. And Pergamum is, guess where, folks? Turkey. So Joel, I think you're on to something. We're right in the middle of a satanic battle. And by the way, we're out of time, Joel. So anyway, I thought you were going to comment there, but Joel, listen, thanks for being on the show today. Thank you for taking this time with us. We're going to have you back soon.